my water just broke. I felt like things really intensified.
She was right there and she was coming.
It was an amazing feeling.
I'm going to cry just thinking about it. I could feel her head.
We heard her cry. We were squeezing hands and she was screaming.
I'm Bryn Hunt Palmer, and you're listening to The Birth Hour. This podcast is designed as a safe place to come together and share childbirth stories. Stick around and join us to hear informative and empowering birth journeys from all over the world. I'd like to take a minute to talk about this episode's sponsor, Aeroflow breast pumps. Did you know that breast pumps and milk storage bags, maternity compression garments, even lactation education and support can all be covered by your insurance? Aeroflow helps millions of parents unlock these breastfeeding and postpartum essentials by working directly with your insurance company to get these free essentials shipped straight to your door. Aeroflow offers all major pump brands, including Medela, Spectra, Motif, Lancino, Amita, LV, Willow, and more. Visit aeroflowbreastpumps.com/birthhour to fill out their free and easy qualify through insurance form. Don't forget to use the promo code BirthHour15 in their online shop for 15% off all supplies and accessories. You've got enough on your plate. Why not let Aeroflow breast pumps help support you on your breastfeeding journey? At the end of this episode, I talk with Kate not only about getting her breast pump for free through Aeroflow, but also about taking advantage of their online lactation classes. So stay tuned for that conversation. Before we get to today's birth story, I want to talk a little bit about our online childbirth course. It's called Know Your Options, and this is the course you've been looking for if you just have that gut feeling that you know you should be taking a childbirth course, but maybe the one that's being offered to you by your care provider is not exactly what you're looking for. It might be more catered towards the type of birth they want you to have versus making you informed of all your different options and how to address different things that happen in birth. Because as this podcast has shown us, birth is very unpredictable. So we would love to have you check out our 12-module course. You can go to thebirthhour.com/course to see detailed outlines of what is included in the course. You will also get a bonus course called Beyond the First Latch that is an additional 6 modules all about pumping, feeding your baby, going back to paid work if that's part of your plan. And we have a special coupon code for you. It's 100OFF for $100 off enrollment. Again, that's thebirthhour.com/course. Another way you can get involved with the Birth Hour community is by joining our Patreon. This is where you pledge your support of the Birth Hour at $5 a month or more, and you get perks in return, like access to all of our archived episodes. That's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of episodes. We've been putting out birth stories since 2015, and those are all available in our archives via Patreon. And you also get access to our private Facebook community, which is a really great group of people who are there to support you, become friends, and just encourage you on this journey through parenthood. So find out more about that at patreon.com/birthhour. Today's birth story guest is Lauren, and she has 5 birth stories to share with us. The first 4 were her own babies, and then for the 5th, she was a gestational carrier. She talks about how each birth was different and shares her experiences. Let's hear from Lauren. Hi, Lauren. Welcome to the Birth Hour. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, you have a lot of stories to get to today, but before we do that, will you tell listeners a little bit about you and your family?
So me and my husband met in San Diego. We got married in 2017, and then that's kind of when we started our family. We moved to Texas before our first, and we have 4 little ones of our own, all under 7, and 2 dogs and a cat, and we are just loving life.
All right. So I know you want to focus mostly on your first birth story, and then we have the 3 other children and then a surrogacy story. So we're going to try to get it all in today. And also, I just want to share that we know each other in real life. We've known each other since we were 5 probably?
Yes. Very young. Yes.
Kindergarten. So that's fun. It's always fun to have a friend on. But yeah, let's start with your first pregnancy and maybe just kind of talk about your pregnancy and what kind of birth you were planning for and how that went.
Okay. So yeah, like I said, my husband and I got married in 2017, and we had talked originally about, starting a family pretty quickly. So we got married in October, and then I was doing ovulation tests. I had never tracked ovulation before, and apparently the first time it stuck because our honeymoon was a month after our wedding. And in November, like the week of our honeymoon, I was kind of like, I think I was supposed to have my period. And I was not very good at tracking any of this, but I was like, I feel like it was supposed to happen. So the Friday before we left for our honeymoon, I took a pregnancy test and it was positive. And I was like, wow, look at this timing. Okay. And for some reason, being the person that I am, I did not tell my husband. And we went on our honeymoon. I know. I don't know. I like looking back, I'm like, I think I wanted you saw online like this special announcement. And I was like, I don't have time to do anything for this fun special announcement. So I just didn't tell him. And we went to Jamaica and I was the worst honeymooner. Like, I'm not drinking. I'm not wanting to do anything. I'm wanting to go to bed early. And me and my husband met each other because we were both bartenders. So he's like, what? Who is this woman I married? Like, what is going on? And, there's like a luau happening. And he's like, let's go to that. And I'm like, no, let's just sleep. And he's like, you are terrible. And we were out in the ocean and he gave me the perfect opportunity. It was just him and I in the ocean. And he's like, hey, like, I know we've talked about having a kid, but like, I'm serious. I really want to have a baby. Like, and I think we should start that soon. And I'm like, perfect opportunity to be like, guess what? But I just sit there and I'm like, yeah, that sounds nice.
Oh
like,
my gosh, Lauren, what?
I know. I don't know what I was thinking because he laid it out for me. And I was like, this would have been perfect. But nope.
How many days was your honeymoon?
It was a week.
Oh my gosh, that is so long.
Yes, it was the most boring week ever. And I'm like Googling all the things like, what can I do? Because like, we're supposed to go scuba diving. I'm eating these random foods. And I'm like, is this okay?
Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. It was not the best honeymoon. We'll have to like make that up at some point. But yeah, so that was our honeymoon and we get home and I had ordered a shirt off Etsy. That was the way I was going to do it. A shirt off Etsy that said, does this shirt make me look pregnant? It's what I went with. Like,
oh my gosh.
The ocean would have been way better. So we get home and like 2 days later, I'm cooking dinner and I have this shirt on and it takes him at least 20 minutes to like actually read it. It's super hard to read. That's way too many words on one shirt. And I'm like, Jordan, look at my shirt. And he's like, looks at it. And he's like, what? Are you serious? And I was like, yes. And then it clicks. He's like, is this why you were so terrible on our honeymoon? And I'm like, yes, I found out the day before. And he's like, why didn't you tell me? And I'm like, I have no idea. Like, I don't know what was going through my head, why I decided to do it that way, but I did, and it was silly. And yeah, it was a not fun honeymoon, but yeah. So he found out we were pregnant, told everybody, and we were living in San Diego and we had always wanted to move back to Texas when we had kids, just because most of my family is here and I wanted the help. And so we started planning our move and we moved back in June. So the nice hot weather of Texas. We took a 20-something hour road trip. My feet were completely swollen. By the time we got here, it was a great pregnancy, like up until then, a very easy pregnancy, no symptoms or anything like that. So we get to Texas, we get settled. We're living in a house on my dad's property that he converted his garage for us so we could be right next to family. So we were here for a little over a month before we had our first. And I just went into this like, I'm going to have a natural birth. I took 0 classes. I did 0 research. Like, I had listened to some of your podcasts and I'm like, oh yeah, I got this. Words of affirmation. Like, but I did absolutely nothing. So we went into, it was one night. I was 39 weeks, 3 days. And like, I'd had some ice cream at night and I had really bad acid reflux from eating late, but like that never stopped me. So I'd ate ice cream right before bed. And I was laying in bed and I'm like, I'm having some cramps. And I was like, it must be the ice cream or something. I don't know what I was thinking. But so I went to the bathroom and I had a cramp and then I had a bowel movement. And I was like, okay. And it was kind of like diarrhea. And I was like, okay, am I getting sick? What's going on? So then 45 minutes later, an hour later, it happened again. And then this happened like consistently throughout the night. So I'm like, okay, something's going on. And the cramping, was contractions, but it's like they weren't painful. So I didn't think anything of it. And then I get on Google and I'm like, oh, this is like your body clearing itself out. to get ready for delivery, which I didn't know anything about because, like I said, I did zero research on anything. So I'm like, okay, this is going to happen. It's like 11 p.m. I'm like, oh, let me take a shower. So I'm like taking a shower, shaving my legs, doing all the things, like did my hair, did my makeup, just in my own little world. My husband is still sleeping. I have not woken him up because I'm like, none of it's consistent enough. So I don't sleep at all. So I had been up, since 7 o'clock that morning. And then all night, I'm just like getting myself ready for this glorious birth that's about to happen. So I don't sleep at all. And then the morning comes around and I tell my husband, I've been having contractions all night. And he's like, why didn't you wake me up? And I was like, I don't know. They're inconsistent. Like, I didn't want to bother you. You needed to sleep. And so they started to get a little bit closer together. And at this point, I've been up since 7 a.m. the previous day. It's 8 o'clock in the morning and I am completely exhausted. The contractions got to be about 10 minutes apart. So we call the triage line and the nurse is like, okay, are you going to have a medicated or unmedicated birth? And I'm like, oh, unmedicated. She's like, okay, well, you need to wait till they're closer together before you come. And I'm like, okay, we'll call back. So I get off the phone with her and I was having back contractions. And I'm like, I don't think I'm going to try to do this naturally at this point. So I call back and I'm like, hey, yeah, we're not going to do it naturally. I'm going to need the epidural. And she's like, okay, well, once they're like 7 minutes apart, you can come on in. So I'm like, okay, my husband's timing them. I'm falling asleep between each contraction because for some reason I thought it was a good idea to stay up all night, doing my hair and all that stuff. So I'd fall asleep and I'd be like, okay, how long was that? And he's like, 8 minutes. And I'm like, oh my gosh, let's just go. So the hospital's about 25 minutes away. We get in the car, drive to the hospital. We live kind of far out in the country. So on the way, it's like a 2-lane road. They're doing construction. We get down to 1 lane and I'm sitting there having contractions. They're 2 to 4 minutes apart in the car. And I'm like, oh my God, just get me to the hospital. This is absolutely insane. Construction, we finally get through that, get to the hospital. They get us in. I'm at a 6. So I'm like, okay, like go me. I made it to a 6, get there. We get the epidural and then everything just kind of stops. Like I'm not able to move around anymore, because they give you the little trigger that like every time you want some more meds, once it's time, you can push the button and they'll give you more. So I was feeling nothing. I couldn't get up. The most I dilated to was a 7. And then they're giving Pitocin, trying to get everything going, and just nothing's happening. So like I said, I've been up since 7 the previous morning. It's now 9 p.m. Still no baby, still at a 7. Nothing's happening. They had to put me on oxygen at one point, and I still haven't slept because I had a lot of family that was there because they were excited, the first baby. And so I was kind of awake, like trying to entertain them for some unknown reason. But so 9 o'clock comes and the doctor comes in and she's like, hey, the baby's kind of in some distress every time you have a contraction. So we're going to have to do a C-section. And I just start crying and she's like, are you okay? And I'm like, no, I just didn't think I really didn't have a birth plan, but I didn't think this was going to end in a C-section. I was beyond exhausted at this point. So I was like, no, it's fine. Let's do this. It wasn't an emergency. So an OR opens an hour later. We go into the OR. My husband's in his little suit. He's terrified. He does not do well in strange situations. So he's just standing there doesn't think he can move, doesn't think he can touch anything. So we got no pictures in the OR, and because I hadn't planned for a C-section, I didn't know about the gentle C-section where you can have a clear drape so you can see what's happening. You can have music, you can have this. We had nothing. It wasn't a horrible experience, but there was nothing about it that was super special. Mm-hmm. So they cut me open. And then that's when they said, they're like, oh, he was transverse. So his head was sideways and I wasn't able to get up and walk around and move. So his head was sideways. So he couldn't engage. That's why I never progressed to anything above a 7. So they got him out. He was healthy. They let me hold him and I'm laying on the OR table. They're stitching me up and I'm holding him. And I close my eyes and I'm like, I just fell asleep. And I look at my husband and I'm like, Jordan, you need to hold him. And he's like, no, you hold him. And I'm like, I just fell asleep. I haven't gotten any sleep. This is not safe for me to be holding this baby. I've been up for 36 hours now. And he's like, oh, shoot. Okay. So he holds him while they finish stitching me up. And it was, I don't even know how long we were in there, but then they wheel us back to the room, have him. And then of course there's like no sleep after that. They're checking baby, they're checking you, getting you to latch, all this stuff. And it ended up being fine. The recovery was fine. Like I didn't know anything else. So, but like no complications. And yeah, we had our first baby born via C-section and it was all good. It ended up working out. Wasn't what I had thought, but it was fine. I didn't know anything different. We knew we wanted a bunch of kids. So after that, about a year later is like when my body says, okay, we can have another baby. Because in between these, I had a miscarriage. I had a blighted ovum. So like the sac was there. My HCG levels were doubling like they were supposed to, just no embryo ever formed. So that was kind of hard. And I know nobody like really talked about it back then-ish, but it happened to a lot of people. And so I told people about it. And I was like, I had a friend who had a miscarriage not long after. And I was like, if you feel angry when you see people like getting pregnant online and like wanting to know why it's not you, like, don't feel bad about those feelings. Like you're allowed to have those feelings and you should talk about it.
Yeah.
It's so much better to do that. So I had that in between and that was hard. But then right about a little over a year, we got pregnant with our second, which was a girl. And she was our COVID baby. I believe everything got really bad, like right before my baby shower, because you were supposed to come and I had to, I don't know if you remember, but we had to be like, okay, I guess we can't all get together for the baby shower because they're telling us, stay home, don't get in groups.
Right.
So we had to cancel that. But then for her delivery, I was at home just hanging out. And then like I felt a little bit of leakage. And I was like, oh, one of those where like, did I just pee a little or did something happen? So I called the doctor and I feel like there wasn't a lot going on at the hospitals at this time. Like in the delivery, there weren't like, if you could stay out of the hospital, you were. So she's like, yeah, come on in. We got plenty of rooms. Like, we'll just check and see if it was your water. So I like get ready, get my bag packed. I'm 37 weeks, 5 days. And I go in and she does the test and it came back positive for amniotic fluid. So she's like, yep, all right, you're going to stay here and have a baby. And I was like, okay. So called my husband to come in. And so it was just him and I since nobody could come. And she was not my regular OB, but she was like the head of the office that I went to. And she was like, I am a big advocate for the VBACs. So I was like, great, like that's what I'm trying to do here. And so she was like, we got this. We're going to get through this. You can do this. I'm like, all right, awesome. So I got the epidural because I was also told like once I had a C-section, subsequently you have to get the epidural in case you have to have another C-section. So they didn't have to knock me out in the OR so I could be awake for it. So I was like, okay, that's fine with me. Like the contractions were hurting anyways. So get the epidural, pushing my button every chance I can so I don't feel anything. So I feel nothing. And they're like, whenever you feel that you need to poop, that's when we're going to have to push. And I never got to that with my first because you never engaged. So I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll let you know. Never happened. They're coming in, checking on me. And I'm like, I don't feel anything. And then they come in and they're like, the head is right here. I'm like, oh, I don't feel anything. And they're like, okay, so let's get the doctor. So we get the doctor in. I asked for a mirror so I could see, and we start pushing. And this is my, first time having to push. And, they're telling me, bear down like you have to poop. And I'm like, okay, am I doing it right? Like, I have no idea. I'm looking in the mirror. I'm like, I guess I'm doing it right. And she kind of got stuck a little bit. So after about 45 minutes, they offered the suction, where they stick a little suction in there and they just like vacuum them out. Mm-hmm. They told us what could happen. And I was like, okay, yeah, like we need to get her out. That's fine. So the next contraction I pushed, they did the suction and she came right out. And for me, I was like, oh, why didn't we do this 30 minutes ago? Like, I'm so tired. So she had like a little cone on her head from where the suction was, but she came out healthy. And that was my first successful VBAC. And then, we still weren't done with our family. So about a year later, we got pregnant again. And this time we didn't find out the gender. I had switched OBs. I was now with one of my friends who I had known since middle school. So that was really cool to have an OB that you know and kind of like can advocate for you. And it was a really cool experience.
Yeah, I remember when you first asked her, we were like together and you were like asking how it works being on call. And she was like, well, like, unless I like know the person, then like they're like on my VIP list and like I get the call no matter what. And you were like, I want to be on that list.
Yeah, I want to be on that VIP list. And luckily I was.
Yeah.
Because my first two, it wasn't my OB that delivered either time. It was someone else.
Right. It usually isn't, like if you're with a group.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, let's do this. So I was going to her and it was great. Like I said, we didn't know the gender for this one. And then I was at home one night. I was 36 weeks, 6 days, and I had worked that night. And I was having like some contractions while at work. And I worked in a medical office, and the doctor, he's timing them for me. He's like, these are consistent. And I'm like, it's fine. It's Braxton Hicks. Like I would go in a patient room and come out and he'd be like, did you have one in there? And I'd be like, yeah. He's like, these are consistent. And I'm like, it's fine. Nothing's happening. So I went home, went to bed. And at like 10, I was like, oh God, did I just pee a little? It was one of those things again. And so I went to the bathroom. Nothing came out. Like I peed in the bathroom. No water came out or anything. I messaged my doctor. I texted her and she was like, well, are you having any other symptoms? Like, was it a big gush? And I was like, no, it's just a little trickle and no contractions or anything, nothing consistent. She's like, okay, well, I had an appointment in the morning anyways for my 37 weeks. So she's like, just come in for that and we'll check you. And I was like, okay. So I packed a bag just in case. Went in for the 37 weeks. She tested for amniotic fluid and there wasn't any. So she was like, you must have just peed a little. I was like, all right, awesome. But she was like, let's do a non-stress test. So she hooked me up. And every time I was having contraction, the baby was in distress. So she's like, all right, we're having this baby today. And I was like, okay. So called my husband. I drove over to the hospital, called my husband. He came and then my mom was going to come too. And it was probably like 10 once I got settled in a room and I got hooked up there. And this nurse, she's like, nothing is happening when you have these contractions. Like the baby's fine. But so it must have just been the way I was sitting or something at the doctor's office to where the baby looked stressed, but ended up being fine. But I was like, we're here, we're doing this. So I was already having contractions. So they were like, let's just go. So started Pitocin, and I didn't get the epidural yet because I was walking around wanting to make sure baby engaged, all that good stuff. And then finally, after the Pitocin contractions started kicking in, I was like, okay, we need the epidural. So got the epidural, and then my doctor came in within about 5 minutes and broke my water to get it going. The epidural only worked on one side. And so I could feel things, but I was like, mostly I was pretty numb. So I was like, oh, that's okay. So she broke my water and they're like, okay, we'll come check you in like an hour. And for previous births, I had never felt anything because I had so much medication in me. My doctor left and I told the nurse, I was like, something's happening. And she was like, no, the doctor just checked you. Like she just broke your water. You're fine. And I was like, no, I feel something. This does not feel right. And she's like, okay. And then so she goes to feel and she's like, oh, the baby's head is right there. And she's like, let me go get the doctor. So she just ran in the hall real quick, grabbed Bailey. They come back in and she's like, okay, I guess we're pushing. And I'm like, all right, let's do this. So she starts, I'm feeling it because the epidural has not fully kicked in and is not on one side. My doctor is just like, because I'm screaming. She's like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm like, it's not your fault. It's okay. And she had like the olive oil and was like rubbing it down there to kind of like help loosen it. And I yelled at her. I was like, if you keep touching me, I'm going to slap you. And she's like, I know, it's okay. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this hurts so bad. Like I can feel this, not prepared. Cause I still third birth, haven't prepared at all. I'm just like, we're just doing this. So it was quick. It was about like from the time I was admitted, like less than 3 hours to where we started pushing. And then this was only about 15 minutes of pushing. And I think it helped because I could feel what I was supposed to do, at least partially what I was supposed to do. Because, before they're like, bear down and poop. And I'm like, I can't feel anything. And so this one I was like, oh, I can feel one side. Like I can feel what my body is supposed to be doing. So she came out quickly and Bailey held her up and she's like, Dad, what is it? And my husband's just like looking and then like looking at me and I'm like looking at Bailey. I'm like, what is it? He's just staring and she's like, it's a girl. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, Jordan, what the heck happened? He's like, I don't know.
Stage fright.
Yeah, I don't know. He like didn't want to say it wrong. I don't know. So that was my second successful VBAC. No intervention needed this time. Like, we didn't need the vacuum or anything. I was able to get her out.
Yeah.
And then we still weren't done with baby. So another year later, we got pregnant again. We didn't know the gender for this one. We went with my same OB. We had an induction at 38 weeks. I was having contractions, so went into the hospital. We started Pitocin and all that. And then this one, my husband was there, and then my sister and my sister-in-law were there too. So that was kind of cool. I got lots of pictures, lots of video. We were in the hospital for a while. So like, they were bored. They went to go get some Mexican food across the street, and they were gone for like an hour and a half. And my nurse is like, where did your family go? And I'm like, you know what? That's a great question. Like, they just left me in this hospital. And then I like call them, and they're having margaritas and shots. And I'm like, okay, like,
oh my gosh.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm glad this is fun for you.
Including your husband, or just your sister and sister-in-law?
Oh no, including my husband.
Oh no.
They all went, and they're like, yeah. They're like, oh, we had some shots. And I'm like, okay, can you guys get here? It's like, what if something happens, like, get over here. But so I hadn't had the epidural yet. And then Bailey, she's like, okay, I'm not going to break your water till you have the epidural for an hour, because last time she broke my water, and then, immediately we had the baby. So I was like, okay. So I was walking around for a while, and then finally I was like, all right, let's do the epidural. So we did that. She waited a while, broke my water. And then it was another one where I was all numbed up. So it was one of those where they came in and they're like, okay, you're out of 10, let's push. And I was like, okay, because I didn't feel anything. So my sister was there, and she like kind of jokingly was like, oh, I want to help. So I was like, hey, Bailey, my sister mentioned wanting to help, put some gloves on. She's like, oh yeah, no problem. So got her in some sterile gloves right when the head was crowning. And she's like, okay. And my sister didn't like really help, her hands were down there, but she like helped deliver him. And, we didn't know the gender. So Bailey held him up and pointed him towards me. And I was like, oh, it's a boy. Yay.
Aww.
So another healthy baby. And it was cool to have them there. And like, we've got all the pictures and all the video and I think I pushed for about 45 minutes. So lots of pictures and videos like prior to anything happening of just, shots of my vagina. And I'm like, why were you guys taking pictures of this? And my sister-in-law, she's like, in case he just came out. And I'm like, that's not how it works. But like, he was still way up the birth canal. He wasn't just going to shoot out. But
oh my gosh.
Yeah. So we had our fourth, and they were all under 2 years apart. And at that point, Jordan and I were kind of like, okay, we're exhausted. I think we're good. Like before that, we didn't know how many kids we wanted. And then at this point, we're like, we've got enough kids. Like, I think we're good. So for us, we were good. But for me, I was like, I really enjoy pregnancy. I have good pregnancies. I enjoy the delivery part, even though like none of mine had been natural or whatever. But I was like, I want to help another family. And I had always thought about surrogacy ever since I was pregnant with my first. And so I really like started looking into it, looked into agencies, spoke to my husband, kind of had to get him on board because he was like, absolutely not. You're not doing that. And I was like, could you imagine, us not having our 4 kids? That's what I had told him. I was like, if we couldn't have these kids as easily as we did, I would hope somebody out there could help us if like we needed it. And, I showed him some surrogacy stories, and he finally got on board. So we met this couple. Medically, they were unable to carry. The mom was unable to carry children. So they had their embryos in Connecticut. And a year after I had our last baby is when we did the embryo transfer. So it was all IVF stuff. So I was taking IVF meds and all that. Went and did the embryo transfer, and it stuck on the first time. So that was wonderful. And that was in January. So he was due the very beginning of October. And this pregnancy was great.
How was the IVF process for you?
So the IVF meds, the hardest part was the daily injections, because you're having to trick your body into thinking it's pregnant. So you're, giving yourself progesterone to help the embryo they put in become viable. Mm-hmm. So it was until about 10 weeks is when the placenta will kick in. So 10 weeks of daily injections. And it was like, the worst part was just like knots and stuff, but I didn't have any reaction to the meds, which was good. Some people have bad reactions, like headaches, weight gain, all that. I didn't have any reaction. So I got really lucky. And then for it sticking on the first try, got really lucky there too. But it was interesting to see that process because, people have to do that to get pregnant. And so I went through that, and a lot of respect to people who have to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it ended up working out, and it was a great pregnancy. My oldest, I was at my 39, 4 little kids, 6 and under at home that I was taking care of. But I worked out throughout the entire pregnancy, like weightlifting 3 times a week. And, that really helped like my body, I think, be ready for this. He was measuring big the entire time, like 80th percentile, 90th percentile. And I was like, oh my gosh, that, like all my other kids had been measuring 50th percentile. And then like once we did the first scan, the dad, he was like, oh yeah, I was a 9-pound something ounce baby. I'm like, you what? Like,
you're like, good to know now.
I guess I should have asked that before we did this because my biggest kid was 7 pounds, 6 ounces. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is not good. This is not going to be good. My biggest concern was I did all these VBACs and then now I'm going to have another C-section because he's going to be too big. But so the whole time he's measuring, I think the last measurement, he was like 85th percentile. So a little bit lower, but still I was like, oh my gosh, I was trying to do all the things like to make sure he was engaged and down there. And we were going to do this vaginally. And so the parents actually live in another country. So they came when I was 36 weeks just to make sure they'd be here for the delivery. And I had told them about a birth photographer that I know, and they said they wanted to do that. So we had a birth photographer lined up. They did the hospital visit, all that stuff. We were still with my Dr. Bailey, who I've known since I was little. So it was really nice to have her because she's like, yeah, like they can all be in the room. We'll make it to where this is the best experience for them as well.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I was really excited about that because, I had them too. And then I needed my husband and then the birth photographer. And she's like, yeah, we'll make it work. It'll be fine. And I'm like, okay, good. I'm glad we can do this. So all my kids were early, like 39.3 was the longest. And then everybody else was 38 or earlier. So I was like, okay, this baby's for sure going to come. And it's your 5th. Don't they say they come sooner? So I'm like, okay. He did not want to come sooner at all. Like every week I'm going to the doctor and Bailey's like, you're still pregnant. I'm like, I know, what is happening? Like, and she's like, maybe, because IVF and it's not your genetics could have a factor. So we had planned an induction for 39 weeks, 1 day. It was a 6 a.m. induction planned. And so I had gone to the gym that Wednesday night and it was a Friday induction. And, my normal workout, feeling great, Braxton Hicks contractions, but nothing consistent. And went to bed that night. And then I woke up at 11 to go to the bathroom. And right when I got up, a huge gush of water, which has never happened with me. It's always been like, just like the trickle where I'm like, did I pee? And I was like, oh gosh, my water just broke. So I took my pants off and I took a picture and I sent it to my doctor because she happened to be on call that night. And she was like, oh, great. She's like, I'll see you soon. And I was like, okay. But my mom had to come watch my kids. So I was like, my mom won't be here for like an hour. Is that okay? And she's like, yeah, that's fine. Now I'm like, okay. So first 20 minutes, not having contractions or anything, get my husband up. I'm like, we're gonna have to go to the hospital, let the photographer know. And I'm like, okay, whenever we leave, let's call the parents so they can meet us at the hospital. So I'm getting all my stuff ready. And then the contractions start and they're really quick. And so I get the contraction timer out on my phone and start it. And they're like already 7 minutes apart and like long, like a minute and a half. And then some will be 30 seconds. And the next one will be a long one again. And I'm like, okay, what's happening? But so my contraction timer, after about 15 minutes or so, it's like, you should start getting ready to head to the hospital. And then like the next notification, it's like, if this is not your first pregnancy and you live far from the hospital, you should start getting ready to go to the hospital. And then the next notification, you should get to the hospital. And I'm like, my mom is still 30 minutes away. And Jordan's walking by every time I have a contraction. He's like, are you okay? Do we need to leave? And I'm like, no, we have to wait for my mom to get here. Like we have 4 kids sleeping. So finally, my mom gets here right around midnight and I'm like dying. I'm like, these are so close. They hurt so bad. I'm like leaning over the kitchen island and my mom comes in and she's like, oh, those are cute pants. And I'm like, Mom, we don't have time to talk about my outfit. Like, I need you, like, we've got to go. And she's like, okay, so like, where are the kids' lunches for tomorrow? And she just asked me all this stuff about, because she's going to have to get them ready for school and stuff. And I'm like, we will call you later. I can't go. And so we get in the car and we're 10 minutes down the road and we took my husband's car, which I thought we were going to take mine, but we took his car and I'm like, I don't have my wallet. I don't have my wallet with me. And he's like, do we need to turn around? And I'm like, no. The contractions are like every 3 minutes. I'm like, no, we cannot turn around. You'll just have to come back and get it later if they need it. So I had like called my mom and told her to send a picture of my ID so I could at least have that. So we're on our way. We called the parents to let them know. So they're on their way. I let the photographer know. She's kind of asking like, have you left yet? She lived an hour from the hospital. So she's like, how close are the contractions? Are you sweating? Are you like, what's going on? She wanted to make sure she was there for the delivery. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I can't answer you right now. Like, they're so close. I don't think I'm going to make it. And I like texted her. I was like, this may be a car baby. And she's like, okay, let me just come. So we get on the highway. I ended up having to turn around in the car just because I was uncomfortable. So I'm like on my knees in the front seat, hanging onto the headrest just to try to get some relief. And I've never felt this before. I've never been like this far along in labor, I guess, before having an epidural. And it was just so quick. Cause like my water broke at 11 and it's 12:20 and we're in the car and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is absolutely insane. And so we're going down the highway and we're almost to our exit. And then my husband's like, the exit is closed to get on a different highway. They were doing construction.
Oh my gosh. Of course.
Yes, of course. So our normal exit is closed. And he's like, what hospital are we going to? Like he had to put it in his phone. So I tell him, so he puts in his phone and goes a different way. And I'm just squeezing the back of his neck. I'm like, I don't think I'm going to make it. I have never felt this before. Like we have to get there. And he's like, okay, I'm trying. So we're going down a road that has stoplights and stuff. And then we stop and I stop for like a longer than just a stoplight period. And I'm like, what is happening? So I turn and look at him and he's just staring straight ahead. He won't look at me. And then I like turn further and I was like, are you kidding me? This is a joke, right? This has to be a joke. And he's like, I know, I'm sorry. And there's a train. We're stuck behind the slowest train at 12:30 in the morning. And I'm like, I'm going to have this baby. And he's like, I know. It says we're 6 minutes away. Like once we get past this train, we're 6 minutes away. So I'm like, okay. He's like, okay, I see the end of the train. So he sees the end of the train. We get to the hospital and he's like, where's the ER? And I'm like, dude, we have had 4 babies. You've seen hospitals. You know where the ER is. I'm like, there's a sign. There's a huge sign that says ER. So I like turn around and I'm like, it's right up there. And I see the sign for the ER and he turns left at like the street before the sign. Cause like, you know, the sign says ER this way with an arrow.
Yeah.
And I was like, what are you doing? And he's like, it says it's this way. And I was like, no, the ER sign is literally right in front of the ER. You need to just go to the sign. And the hospital we're at, they're doing construction. He's like, can't turn around. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. I'm about to have this baby. And I'm like looking around in the back seat. I'm like, okay, I guess I could lay right there. And then I'm like, should I turn the phone on so these people don't miss the birth of their baby, you know, because it's not mine. And I'm just like, This is terrible. And then I look over after we're going around the back of the hospital and I look over at my husband and he's got his window down and he's grabbing a ticket. And I'm like, where are we going? And he's going into a parking lot that has an arm that you have to get a ticket. I'm like, I need the ER. I don't need you to park. What is happening? I think he was just overwhelmed. He's like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm failing. You know, what is happening? And so he's like, I see the ER. It's right there, but there's like a barricade because they're doing construction. And so he rolls his window down and sees a security guard and he's like, how do I get over there? And he's like, oh, you have to go through the parking lot over here, out over here, and then back around. And so I'm just breathing. I'm like, I think if I relax, I'm going to pee and poop on myself and this baby's going to come out. That's just like the feeling I was having. And like I said, I've never felt this before because I've never done it naturally. So I was just like, something's about to happen. And then all of a sudden we go over this huge bump and I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm jumping the curb, because he didn't want to have to go through the checkout of the parking lot where you put your ticket in and you pay. So he just jumped the curb, got on the street, pulled around to the circle drive of the ER, runs inside, and he's like, my wife is in labor. So a nurse comes out, and then a security guard comes out with a wheelchair, and I'm still in the front seat facing the back way. And they're like, okay, is there a head? And I'm like, no, there's no head yet. The security guard's like, okay, well, whenever you're ready, like just turn around and sit down in the seat. And I was like, okay. So I get out, and the security guard is going to take me up to labor and delivery. And she's like, okay, if you feel like you have to push, let me know and we'll take you back to the ER. And I was like, okay. So we just get into the hospital, and she starts to go right to go toward the elevator. And I'm like, oh, I'm about to push. And I have never felt this, that your body just pushes. And I was like, I can't not push. Like it's about to push. So I just like had a contraction, and like my body pushed, and I was like, oh my God. And so she like stops the wheelchair, turns me around. She's like, nurse, she's pushing. And the nurse is like, what? No. And I was like, I can't not push. Get me in a bed. So they find the first room, and they don't deliver many babies in the ER. So nobody was prepared for this at all. And I'm like in the chair pushing, like trying to lean back to get pressure off of my pelvis. And they're like, okay, can you get up on this table? And I'm like, okay, so everybody runs in. There's at least 15 people in there, but like, no, I'm laying on the table and nobody is near me because nobody knows what to do.
Oh my gosh.
I'm just laying in this bed. My husband's not with me because he had to move our car. So I'm just laying there and I'm like, somebody help me. And I'm like looking around, and all these eyes are just on me. And someone's like, okay, I'm going to take your pants off. And I'm like, okay. So I'm laying there, pants off. My body's just pushing every now and then when I have the contraction, and the doctor comes in and he like just looks in between my legs and he's like, I think we have some time. And I'm like, what? We do not have time. Like, I'm like, my body is pushing. And then he's like, let me get some gloves. I'm going to check you. And I'm like, okay. And then he puts the gloves on, and then he checks, and he's like, oh, he's like, no, we don't have time. And I'm like, but yeah, no, we don't have time, dude.
I like that he's just visually like, I think we have time. Basically, the baby's not coming out, so we're good.
Exactly. I'm like, are you serious, dude? So they like call a code stork, the OB team who actually knows what they're doing down. So still at this point, I'm like laying there on the bed, lots of people in the room, no one next to me, haven't even hooked me up to anything. And I'm like asking for pain meds, even though I know we're too far gone, like no pain meds are happening at this point, but I'm like, I need meds. And they're like, what's your name? Who's your doctor? All this stuff. And I'm like, my doctor she's on call tonight. And so they were like, oh, okay. So they called her. And so the Code Stork team comes down, and then she comes down and she's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. She always apologizes to me. I'm like, it's not your fault, but oh my gosh, I'm pushing. And then all of a sudden the photographer comes in. She managed to make it there just in time. She starts taking pictures, and she's like, I talked to the parents. She had their number. And so she's like, I called them. They're trying to park and get in here.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Thank goodness the photographer got there. But I was like, oh my gosh, I feel so bad. They're not going to make it. So they finally get me hooked up a little bit. And, Bailey, she's like, you're going to have to push. And I'm like, this hurts so bad. And she's like, the only way to get it to stop at this point is to push him out. And I'm like, oh, no. She's like, next contraction, just push. And I was like, okay. So having someone there to like guide you, because prior I'm like, my body's pushing. What do I do? Yeah. And everybody's just staring at me. And I'm like, okay. So she's like, next contraction, push. So I push, his head comes out, and she's like, okay, push again. And the rest of him comes out. And it was the quickest delivery I've ever had. Yeah. Obviously, I mean, like water breaking was 11 p.m. He was born at 1:10 in the ER. The photographer made it. My husband was like, why didn't we do this every time? It was so fast. I was like, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry, dude. But that was very painful. But I mean, it was crazy. Like, I'm glad I got to experience natural, because the second he was out was just this huge wave of relief, because I'm like, there's no more contractions. This is so nice.
Yeah.
it was pretty amazing. And then they were cleaning him off, and that's when the parents came in, which was really beautiful. Like the photographer had one of the nurses taking video. So they saw the parents walk in, and the mom, their baby was crying because they were cleaning him up. And so she looked over, saw him, and then she started crying. And then she just turned around and came right to me and like gave me the biggest, longest hug. And I'm like, go look at your baby. And she's like, no, just holding me because she was so grateful for what had happened and that her son was here. And I was just like, this made it all worth it. Like this was the goal in the end. And we completed it. We got them their baby. And so, yeah, it ended up being really cool experience. They went to their own room and I went up to my room, and I was discharged at noon, but didn't leave till like 2. But, I wasn't needed there since I didn't have the baby. And I was like, felt great. And had my husband come pick me up and went home. And it was a wild last birth, but it was a really cool way to end like that whole surrogacy journey with them.
Yeah, and we'll put some of the pictures on the show notes, but like the one of her giving you a hug is really sweet. So,
I mean, the video, like I watch it, and anytime I show anybody, they're like, I'm going to cry. And I'm like, I know, like the fact that she came to me, it was just like, instead of her baby first, just because she was so grateful. But everybody did ask when they came in, they're like, why are there so many people in here? And I'm like, that's a great question. They're all just watching, because most of the ER people, staff did stay in there, because they were like, we've never seen this. And then afterwards, I was like, I'm so sorry, everybody, that I did that to you guys. And they're like, oh, that's okay. You did great. That was amazing. And I'm like, I did great. Look at that.
Yeah. It's probably like one of the most fun things for ER doctors to see compared to what they're usually dealing with.
Right. Yes, exactly. We've never seen this. And it was funny too, because Bailey, when they called the code stork, that's usually residents go.
Yeah.
And so she was like, yeah, I heard the code stork. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's not me. Like, I'm not on that team. That's for residents. And then she was like, wait a minute. It's been a while since Lauren texted me.
Oh my gosh.
She's not here. And then I got the call and I was like, oh gosh. And so she was like, way to, make an entrance. And I was like, yeah, that was pretty wild.
Yeah.
So it ended up being really cool. And I'm glad I got to experience my natural birth. It was just amazing. When you hear like your body just knows what to do and just pushes. It did. That's what happens.
Yeah.
It was just, this baby is coming.
Yeah. Especially by like baby number 5.
Yes.
You know what we're doing here.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, the whole 2 hour start to finish was wild. And it was a really cool experience. And he's a happy, healthy 4-month-old now.
Aw. Yeah. And you obviously like used Bailey over and over again. So would you recommend having a friend as your OB, or was it weird at first?
Oh my gosh. The first time, I think the very first appointment where she the first time she ever had to check me, I'm just like, I'm sorry. And she's like, you're fine. She's like, you're fine. And then like a couple deliveries where I am pushing and I'm like, I know that I'm pooping. I'm so sorry. And she's like, everybody does it,
More normal for her than for you.
Yes, exactly. She's like, I see this every day. This is nothing. Even though I know you, this is nothing. But it was fun because with my 4th, whenever like I had all my family there and I was like pushing and I was like, I know I'm pooping. And then because I had to push for a while with him, she's like, hey, well, you're not pooping anymore. And I'm like, oh, that's great. Like I got it all out. That's great. So it was just a fun, relaxed experience. And it was great to have her, and she was great. And if there's ever any future ones, I will use her again. So yeah.
Yeah, I've talked to our other friend about, she was trying to decide who to use for her just like annual appointments. And she was like, I don't know if I should go to Bailey. Like, is that weird? I'm like, I don't know. I feel like in a birth sense, maybe not, because like you're focused on just getting the baby out. But for annual checks, maybe. I don't know. But after you've had a bunch of kids, like you lose all modesty anyways. So. Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, at this point, I'm just, she's like, okay, I'll step out while you change. I'm like, girl, let's just do it. Come on. It's totally fine. Yeah, it's no longer weird. And then actually my sister-in-law, her induction date was the same date as mine was for the surrogacy journey. Oh, wow. So she ended up going to Bailey too. And fun. It was nice to know someone, and like she was comfortable with her, and highly recommend if you have a friend who's an OB to go to them. Yes. And they'll actually be at your birth, even if it's in the ER. Exactly. They will make it a point to be there. Awesome. All right. Well, I'm glad we were able to get all of your stories recorded. Where's the best place for people to find you online?
So I did a lot of my surrogacy journey and then all of my births on my Instagram, and that is low_edge.
All right. We'll put that on the show notes. Thank you so much, Lauren, for sharing your stories.
Thank you so much for having me. It was fun to chat with you and tell you all about them.
Now I'm going to chat with Kate about Aeroflow breast pumps and how you can get your breast pump and other things for free through insurance, like their online classes, accessories, all kinds of great things. All of that is at aeroflowbreastpumps.com/birth hour. All right, let's hear from Kate. Hi, Kate. Thanks so much for coming on the Birth Hour today to chat with me about Aeroflow breast pumps.
Yay. Hi, Bryn. Happy to be here.
Awesome. Well, you reached out via Instagram about Aeroflow and your experience with them, and I was so excited to talk with you. So will you just tell people a little bit about, how you found Aeroflow and the process you went through for using their services?
Yeah, for sure. So it was actually through the Birth Hour, through your podcast, that I heard about Aeroflow and decided to just fill out the form. It's like a very simple form you fill out online where you put in your insurance information, and then like Aeroflow does the rest.
Yeah.
And so they got me a free breast pump. I think it was the Spectra is the one that was the one I chose through insurance. But Aeroflow will actually show you like all of the different pumps available to you, how much they cost through insurance. Some of them, like, you do have to pay a little bit. And then they show you the ones that are fully covered. And so I decided, I chose the Spectra, and they sent it to me. And then I think I got like an email or a text that said like, hey, thanks for, using Aeroflow. You should also sign up for our lactation classes. And, you get tons of those sort of promotional emails.
Right.
And I didn't think much of it. I was like, okay, whatever, I'll take a look at this later. And then I started looking more into it, and I was like, oh, actually these classes look pretty cool. They were fully virtual and they were covered by insurance. And so I decided, I was like, what the heck, let's do it. And I signed up for, I think, 4 different classes. I only made it to 2 of them, but the 2 that I went to were Lactation 101 and Pumping 101. And they're just like such great classes. I was like so surprised by the quality of the classes. They're taught by, is it
IBCLC?
Yeah. And they just gave a ton of good information about starting breastfeeding off right. And so it also would be helpful too for people who are newly breastfeeding, just kind of work through some potential breastfeeding issues like latching or positioning. But yeah, I contribute a lot to my success. So my daughter is 4 weeks old now. And we had a pretty solid start to breastfeeding. I've been exclusively breastfeeding, and I contribute a lot of it to having that support from the class. The way the classes run too they're live.
Oh, cool. That was going to be my next question.
Yeah, they're virtual, so you can join via Zoom.
Yeah, but
they're live, and so the instructor is there teaching the course. They're also really just super good teachers. I felt like the way they presented information was really good. They had tons of visuals and videos, live demonstrations where they have a baby doll, and they were showing different positions and ways to get baby to latch. And so they are live though, so you can ask questions. And so you're able to ask questions in the chat. You can, unmute and have a conversation back and forth. So very helpful for if you have specific questions too about lactation.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. Especially like you said, even after baby arrives, to be able to look at the positioning of the baby doll and position your own baby on screen and be like this, or that's great.
Yeah, it's really helpful. And the pumping 101, this is my first baby and I had never pumped before. And so I have the same pump that they were using in the demo, the Spectra.
Oh, nice.
And so it was really cool to I kind of walked along with, did the demo along with them on the same pump, which was just really helpful, having never used a breast pump before.
Yeah.
They look kind of scary. At least to me, they looked pretty scary. And so it was nice to be able to sort of walk through with the instructor and get a demo.
So when you were signing up for it, was the scheduling, were there several a month or lots of options? Or
Yeah, that's a good question. It was pretty convenient. They gave a few times a month, I want to say. And different, I want to say they were different hours too.
Okay.
But it was scheduling was really, really easy. I remember like, cause they have, all your information, like they have insurance information already. And so they do all the back end work of clearing this with insurance, because they're, classes run by professionals and they do cost money, but insurance covers the cost. And so they would like take attendance at the beginning of the Zoom call. And then they did like all that back end work to make sure it was covered by insurance. And so I didn't have to do anything except like put in my name and email to sign up. So yeah, like really easy.
Awesome.
And again, like kind of going into it, I was like, I'll give this a try, kind of see what it's like. And then I was just like captivated. I remember after the call, getting off particularly the Lactation 101 call, and just like being like to my partner, like, oh my gosh, you've got to hear like what I learned.
Oh, cool.
Like he was like, wow, you see, like, you're like an expert now in lactation. I was like, I feel like it. Like, I feel like I'm like, have a lot of good, solid information. So yeah, like super pleasantly surprised by how informative and just helpful the classes were.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I think that I had posted about Aeroflow on Instagram and you responded like, their classes are amazing. And so I knew you were passionate about it enough to like respond to an Instagram story.
Yeah.
So that's very cool. And I knew they had lactation education, but I wasn't fully aware of the format and everything and the fact that they're live. I mean, that's like having your own virtual lactation consultant. So that's amazing.
And I had taken like a childbirth ed class, paid for, like it was a community one that I paid for here. And I live in Minneapolis. And it was like, one of the weeks we went over lactation, and it was like similar information, but like free, like I was like, and it also like it was kind of went more in depth, because the Aeroflow class was specifically a lactation class, like the Lactation 101 class, what I'm thinking of. So yeah, it was just like very quality, like good information.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm going to add this definitely to our resources on the website and our childbirth course, because we go over a lot of that stuff as well. But the live aspect, I think, is just so great, even if it's a refresher for, second or third time, or you already took a class, just something to kind of get a refresher and ask questions and things like that. So.
And there are some other classes, like the other ones I signed up for but didn't end up making. There was like one on like maternity leave, like, and your kind of like, I think, lactation stuff around leave and like going back to work.
Right.
But yeah, they were all covered through insurance. So.
Very cool. Well, I'm going to have to reach out to Aeroflow and audit these classes so that I can talk about it more as well. But thank you so much for shining a spotlight on it.
Yeah, for sure. Highly recommend. So when you get that email or that text that says, hey, do you want to also sign up for the classes? You should do it. Because like I said, I was kind of like, oh yeah, okay, whatever, like promotional email for Aeroflow, but.
Right. And we're all paying so much for insurance, like we might as well get as much out of it as we can.
Totally. It was well worth it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again, Kate.
Yeah, of course, Fran. Thanks so much for having me on.
Thank you so much again to Lauren for sharing her birth stories with us, and to Aeroflow for sponsoring this episode. Be sure to go to aeroflowbreastpumps.com/birthhour to get started with your free breast pump, as well as the other things that they offer, all for free through insurance. I will have more information on the show notes page, which you can find by going to thebirthhour.com and searching for Lauren's name in the search bar.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, head to thebirthhour.com and click Become a Member to pledge your support. And as a thank you, you'll get an invitation to join our private Facebook group and access to exclusive episodes. Your vote of confidence and support means the world to me.